Welcome to this discussion today about the MBA course bidding system. I'm Professor Scott Sampson, and we have developed this system over a number of years to help alleviate some problems that the MBA students, in fact, frankly, a lot of students at BYU experience, and we actually think we have a system that provides the MBA students with a better experience in enrolling in elective courses of choice. So the basis of this, if I give an overview of our presentation, the MBA office decided that after years of complaints from students, they will revise the course registration system to avoid students staying up till midnight. Now, do we have any students here in the audience that were prior BYU students? Did you ever stay up till midnight to register for your classes? Okay, yeah. 3 web browsers open at the same time. When we were developing the system, we did some focus groups and talked to students. We actually found out there was one student, I think he had like 5 or 6 computers at a time opened up. Probably one trying to get each course he wanted there. And as soon as the stroke of midnight, he'd hit all the enter buttons there and try to get them all to get him enrolled in the courses he wanted. Typing as fast as they can. And instead, we want to provide a fairer priority registration system based on student preferences. So that's kind of the motivation that we have for this MBA pre-registration system. So some basics of we're calling it pre-registration or priority registration system. It is a course bidding system. You'll have the chance to bid on courses. Students can rank their courses. They can allocate points to each class. You don't have to actually put up some money for this. We considered that a little bit, but we're not going to have you put up money. It's just points that we'll give you. The points spent on courses in one round of the bidding will not be available in subsequent rounds. So we're actually going to do the bidding for 5 rounds. And you can allocate how you want to use your points across the 5 rounds. If you blow all your points in the first round, you don't have any points for subsequent rounds. That doesn't mean you can't get in elective courses. It means that you can't get priority registration in other elective courses. So let's see how it works. So I'd like you, if you have a computer, go to this web address, http://services.byu.edu/MBA. When you get to this web address, there's a link there that will take you to the registration system. One thing you'll notice is that when you click on that link, it will take you to a secure website because we keep passwords. We do, 128-bit encryption or something like that. So it's very secure. So you can feel comfortable typing in your net ID and password that it's going to be fully encrypted. Now for this particular room, I don't know how the Wi-Fi is. Some rooms, they've tried to beef up the Wi-Fi that when we have lots of simultaneous connections that it works, but does anybody have this working yet? Have you been able to get in? Okay. I will tell you this, and this is both for the audience here as well as the video audience, is that on some rare occasions we have students that can't log in. And I guess, should I tell them the solution to that so they'll know? I guess I could probably tell them. What we find out is if you go to the AIM system to My BYU, and if you change your NetID password to your current password, just change it to the password it already is, it fixes the problem. So I don't know why that is. It's some peculiarity. We actually use BYU authentication servers to authenticate you there. So, all right. You should see something kind of like this, although it won't have Matt Walsman's name there. It will have your name there. And if it doesn't have your name, let me know, because that means we have some problem there with our authentication. And it will tell you you're not currently enrolled in any courses. It will give you some instructions there. In fact, I'll give you maybe a couple of minutes now, if you want, to read the instructions, and feel free to give it a try. Maybe as you're doing that, I will log myself in. Okay. Nope, don't want to save my password on this tech console here. So you have all the instructions there, a little bit more instructions than we had in the old system. I actually already have some classes there. I'm going to add a few more. Oh, let's see, maybe this class and this class and this class. They look like good classes. I hope that your selection criteria is a little less arbitrary than mine is. I'm going to put in some bid points, maybe 444, 555. Oh, no, that doesn't make any sense. Oh well. 330, 33. I have to click the update button. I guess there's a minimum bid, so maybe 334. All right, back to the presentation. You'll have plenty of opportunity to give this a try later as well over this next week. So, how does the system work? I'm going to describe the system in terms of conceptual design, and then after that we'll talk about some of the specifics about how the system works. And if you have questions, again, please keep those to the end here in the studio audience. And if you have questions for those of you in the viewing audience in the future, you can contact the MBA office, and they will contact me as necessary to answer questions. So, you have the opportunity to both rank your courses and to provide these bid points. And every student is given a fixed number of bid points, which currently is 1,000 bid points. I guess we could have given you 1,000,000 bid points, but then the courses would be scaled up proportionally. So 1,000 bid points seems to give us the granularity that we need. The system is kind of comparable to the eBay automatic bidding system. Have any of you ever used eBay before? Any of you ever used automatic bidding? Okay, so some of you have. So the way automatic bidding works is we might have an item like this awesome Newton message pad, and we might have 4 bidders. Ann the Can, Bob Dog, Carl 934, and Deb Idaho. They gave bids of $25.5, $20.01, $20, and $18. And the way automatic bidding works is at $1 increments, people put in their bids beforehand, and the bid price goes up $1 at a time. So it's 18, it goes up to 19. Well, when the bid price actually goes up to 19, Deb Idaho is eliminated because she didn't have the highest bid. Then it goes to 20, everybody's still in. When the bid goes up to 21, Bob Dog and Carl 934 are both eliminated, and the winner is now Ann the Can. Now this is the interesting thing about this, is Ann bid $25.50, but she only paid $21 for that. This is what we call a second price bid, meaning that the price that you pay is not the price you bid, it's the price of the first person, or it's, in the case of eBay automatic bidding, it's the price of the highest integer value, the dollar increment value that is above the next highest bidder. So what it does is it helps reduce the risk of people bidding more than maybe what the market price might be. So let me describe that for the MBA priority registration system. Imagine we have a class, MBA 666, which is, what is that, magical creatures or something like that? Magical arts, okay? And we have all these students, and it turns out there's only 2 spaces left in the class. So imagine that the class was already full. And we have Ann, Bob, Carl, and Deb each bid what we're calling the max bid points of 800, 501, 500, and 300 points. So Ann is going to get a space in this class, and Bob is going to get a space in the class. Now the question is, how much should Ann and Bob have to pay in terms of bid points to get in this class? Well, again, this idea of the max bid points, similar to what we see with the eBay automatic bidding, Carl didn't get in and Deb didn't get in. So in fact, Carl was the first person who didn't get in and bid 500 points. So we take that 500 points as the market price. And so for Ann, she only has to pay 500 points to get in. For Bob, he only has to pay 500 points to get in. Does that make sense? Okay, so it's a second price system. It's a much fairer system for bidding than a traditional bid of where people have to pay the price they bid. Why do we use the max bid auction? Well, it's called, another term for it I've mentioned, is a generalized second price auction. It's based on something, this is kind of the technical background, a Vickrey auction. And here's the mathematical proof for this. For those that are interested, you can get the notes afterwards or something. But basically, the max bid approach provides tremendous incentive to bid your true preferences. This is the primary reason we use this method, is that sometimes there's a temptation that we have to game the system, to come in and say, oh, I really want this course, and I don't really want this course, but I know this course is going to be more popular, so I think I'll bid more points for the second course than the first course. Well, mathematically, according to game theory, the second price bidding method that we're using determines that the optimal strategy for you to bid your points is to bid your true preferences. And if you bid your true preferences, all will be well. If you don't bid your true preferences, you're going to get something arbitrary. So, your optimal bidding strategy is to bid according to your true preferences. Avoid gaming the system. In fact, over the, how long have we been doing this? Half a dozen years now, maybe? I have had, I don't know, every year, maybe one or two students, not every year, but, I've had a few students over the years come up to me afterwards a little bit discouraged about what they got from the bidding system. And I'll say, well, tell me what you bid, what your points were, and I can actually go in the system and look at that. But when the students tell me that, they say, well, here's what I bid. And I said, well, you got what you bid for. I said, that's not what I wanted. And I thought, well, were you gaming the system? Yes, you were. So I'm pretty sure I can say quite confidently that either without exception or almost without exception, students that don't get what they want, it's because they try to game the system. They don't try to bid their true preferences. So here's a few gory details about how the system works. The system tries to get you in your top-ranked class each round based on demand and how many max bid points you allocate. If you fail to get in your first choice in a particular round, then your subsequent choices move up. So it's not like you lose a round because your secondary choices become elevated, become primary choices. However, your subsequent choice is still subject to your max bid points. So you have to be very careful about providing points that are based on your true preferences. The cost of getting into any class is greater of the minimum bid amount, which is at least 100 points. So every course costs at least 100 points. And it's the minimum of either the greater of either that or the bid of the first student who did not get into the course, as we've described previously. So you will get into one and only one class each round, unless your preference list runs dry. So we're going to have 5 rounds. For the first year MBA students, you really can only take maybe 3 electives during winter semester. The second year MBA students can take a whole load of electives that they want to. So if you're going to try to get into 3 electives, you should probably have at least 5 or maybe 6 courses on your bid list. So let's look at an example. So the first example, we have 3 electives, MBA 101 and 102. They each have 2 seats available. Now, don't worry, the MBA elective courses have a lot more seats than 2 in. This is just a very simple example for illustration purposes. Anne wants to get these classes, 101 and 102, and there's her bid points. And Bob wants to get in 102 and 101, and here's what his points are. So in this relatively trivial example, we're going to go through 2 rounds of the priority registration. In round 1, Anne gets MBA 101, Bob gets MBA 102. In round 2, Anne gets MBA 102, and Bob gets MBA 101. Now, this was a trivial example because we only have 2 people and only 2 classes, and so there's no second price in this particular situation. There's nobody that didn't get in. So let's look at a more complex example. Example number 2, we have 4 students. We have Anne, as we've had before. We have Bob. Now we have Carl, and we have Deb. So Carl and Deb, they are all vying for these 2 classes. There's 2 seats available in MBA 101, 3 seats available in MBA 102. Am I going too slow on this? In the future, you can actually play this thing at double speed. How would that be? Okay, in the first round, or at half speed if you want. In the first round, so what we do in the system, what it actually does is takes all the choices and creates a big list that's sorted first according to rank and second according to the bid. So in the first round, it goes through and Anne gets in MBA 101, so the available seats from 101 drops down to 1. Carl gets into 101. Oops, that gets down to 0, so 101 is full. Bob gets into 102, which is fine. There was space for that. Oh no, Deb cannot get into MBA 101 because that class is full and she didn't have the highest number of points. So what happens is Deb did not get into it, so the cost of MBA 101 to Anne and Carl is 550 points. Because Deb is the first person who didn't get into MBA 101 in that round. So for round 2, Anne only has 450 points left because she used 550 points in round 1 to get into 101. That's why she has 450 left. So even though she bid 500 points, the system assumes that she only has 450 points in round 2. And for Carl, he had 350 points. That was enough to get him into that, to get into, let's see. Oh, this is for round 2. So Carl was fine. Nothing happens to him. He has no change. So Deb's second ranked course now becomes her first ranked course. So what happens is the system actually reorders it. So Deb is elevated. So even though she didn't get her first choice because it was full, she's elevated in the list so that now she has a first choice here, so she's not disadvantaged in subsequent rounds. So in round 2, well, I guess we haven't finished round 1. So now Deb gets in MBA 102, and that's round 1 is over. We've actually, everybody's gotten one course in round 1, and Carl, Bob, and Deb. So in MBA 102 didn't fill up, so to get into MBA 102 counts the minimum, which is 100 points. Second round. So Bob can't get into 101, it's full already, so that just comes off the list there. There's nobody got into 101 in round 2. Anne could get into MBA 102. Okay, so now MBA 102 is full, and Carl cannot get into MBA 102, so that sets the second prize bid for MBA 102 in round 2 of 350 points. But this was a relatively simple example, but if there were subsequent rounds, then Anne would be charged 350 points to get into MBA 102. So a few things to remember about this. 1, the course requests are considered in rank order. The rank dominates. Second, the highest bidders will get in courses first. So bid as high as you need to in whatever round it is, because whoever bids the highest will get in the courses first. The cost of getting into a class is the greater of the minimum bid amount, 100 points, or the bid of the first student who did not get into that course. And any unused points get returned to the students for subsequent rounds. Now we're going to do this for 5 rounds, and I know this comes up on occasion. People say, well, what do we do at the end of 5 rounds? I have points left over. And I thought of like buying a jar of Smarties or something like that, and you trading your points for Smarties, but we haven't figured out what to do with those points. Hold on to them. I mean, we have students from years ago that still have bid points that they haven't used yet, that have already graduated, but someday maybe we'll figure out what to do with those leftover points. You will have opportunities to adjust your points after each round, but you don't need to. Now, in fact, since we're using this second price auction method, and again, the mathematics are quite complex on this, but your best strategy is to, at the beginning, put the appropriate preference points for each of the courses in your bid list. And as long as you've adequately represented your true preferences, there's really no need to adjust your points between rounds. You can adjust them between rounds, but you don't have to. So a week from today, for those of you in the studio audience, and then for a time that the MBA office will tell you for those in the video audience, there will be a day where we'll actually run the bidding system, and you're welcome to come if you want to, but few students actually wind up coming to that thing. Because as long as you have your preference points in the system, you don't actually have to show up at the day that we run the bid. You can just later find out what the results are. If you want to participate in this, and you don't have to, if you don't participate in priority bidding, there is an alternative that I'll describe. So you log into what you've already seen, services.byu.edu/MBA. You select and rank your desired courses, assigning max bid points before the priority registration date. For us, that's going to be next Thursday, for those of you here, not tomorrow, but a week from Thursday. But it's whatever day the MBA office tells you is the deadline. Then you log out. It's as simple as that. The actual registration will take place at the time that will be announced. All max bid points entered before that time will have equal consideration, meaning if you hurry and get your bid points in now, or if you wait until tomorrow or the next day, they all have equal consideration. If you would like to adjust your points, you're welcome to, and you can adjust them between rounds, but between now and the actual bid day, a week from Thursday, you can adjust them all you want. If you correctly specify your max bid points initially, you should not need to adjust points between rounds. In other words, you do not need to attend priority registration meeting in order to participate. And I know some people tell me this. I had somebody just email me yesterday saying, oh, I'm going to be out of town next week at interviews. That doesn't matter. You don't have to be present to win in this situation. What if you don't want to participate in this? What is the alternative? Well, regular MBA registration reportedly begins the Monday following at 12 o'clock a.m. However, the MBA electives will require a registration flag for the first week of registration. Now that first week, the end of the week is going to be defined differently. This year, and it may not be true next year or the year after that, so from the video audience, get this information from the MBA office. But for this year, we've decided it's going to be, the flags will go until Thursday, not till Friday. Because students would rather get up in the middle of the night on Friday if they are going to try to get more elective courses than rather than get up in the middle of the night on Saturday. I guess Saturday's a sleep-in day or something like that.
It would be Thursday. They would stay up late on Thursday.
They stay up on Thursday. Okay. So the MBA office will let you know. So this first week will be defined by the MBA office, and we will tell you the day these flags will work. Registration flags will be given to students with winning bids from priority registration. So if you win in the priority registration a week from Thursday, then we will put it in AIM, the flag that will allow you to have the priority registration, that you can, during the first few days of registration, get into those courses without any problem at all, without having to compete with other students, because that space will be reserved for you. After the first week, or in this case after the first up until Thursday, any student can vie for any available space in any of the MBA electives. Students with registration flags must use them the first week of registration, or in this case, up until that Thursday, or they lose the advantage. And I had this happen a few years ago. A student, just for some reason, procrastinated, had these great flags to get into some elective courses, and just forgot about it and didn't use the flags. Those flags expire at the end of that priority registration period, and when that happens, the flags are useless. So, some frequently asked questions, and then we'll open it up for questions from the audience. A few of these questions that have come up in the past are, what's keeping me from bidding 1,000 points for every course and seeing what the market decides? Now, we're going to do 5 rounds. For the first year students, you may only get 3 courses. Could you bid 1,000 points, bid the whole wad on every course? Sure, if you want to, you can. There's nothing to prevent that. You can bid 1,000 points for every round, but you do so at a risk. If all 1,000 points are required to get in a course, you will not have any remaining points for the subsequent rounds. On the other hand, let's say you had 2 courses you wanted, and you said, oh, these 2 courses I want more than anything. And you bid 1,000 points for your first choice and 1,000 points for your second choice. What will happen is, for your first choice, the market will decide what the market price is. And imagine the market price for that first course was 600 points. Then for your second choice, you bid 1,000, but you only have 400 points left because you've blown some of your points in the first round. So then you may or may not get in that second choice because you blew so many points for that. Does that make sense? So what we find is students fit in different categories. I mean, the thing that makes these types of bidding systems work is the fact that people have different types of preferences, and we're taking advantage of the degrees of freedom in your preference space there. So some students, they have the one course they want more than anything else, and they don't care if they get in anything else. And they're going to just blow the wad in the first round. Other students say, no, I want this course, but I also want this one, so they might balance the number of points that they put for the courses. They might say, for my first choice, I'm going to put 700 points. For my second choice, I'll put 500. For my third choice, maybe I'll put 300 points. And again, the bidding system will make sure that you don't ever spend more than 1,000 points. So you can bid 1,000 points. You can bid, it doesn't have to sum to 1,000 points. You can bid that each of your bids, the total sum of your bid points can be more than 1,000. The system will automatically make sure that you don't spend more than 1,000 points and get some unfair advantage. Another question that's come up, what if many students bid the same amount for a course and the course filled up? Who gets in the course? So let's say, a particular course, a whole bunch of students bid 600 points for it and it filled up. And so the question is, who gets in the course? So let's say that we had 10 students, that there was 5 spaces left in a course, and we had 10 students that each bid 600, and then a whole bunch of students that bid less than 600 for that. Well, what will actually happen is, each round the students are given a tie-breaking ordering. Those students with a higher tie break will get in that course. The tie break ordering is regenerated every round. In other words, it's somewhat random and arbitrary. And trust me, we debated over this ad nauseum about who we should give preference when there's the tie-breaking situation. And the tie-breaker situations don't happen in a lot, but they do happen in some situations. And we talked about, well, first-year students should get preference. Is that a good idea? Yes. Yeah, but next year you're going to be second-year students, right? Should second-year students get preference? Should students that, are snappy dressers get preference? Should students that, snow ski get, no, we didn't talk about those alternatives, but we debated about that, and we really couldn't identify a solution other than just letting it be random and arbitrary, meaning if everybody, for some reason, bids the same amount of points for a course that fills up, the system will arbitrarily select some from those that bid the same points. But it resets every round, so if you have advantage in one round, you are not necessarily assured of any advantage in the next round. What if there are two sections of a course, but I only want to get one of the two? Another question that's come up is sometimes we have that. We have two sections, and one might be at 8 o'clock, and one might be at 2 o'clock, and I want to get in one or the other. I prefer to get in the 8 o'clock section, but if I don't get in that, I want to get in the 2 o'clock section. The answer is if you put two sections of the same course on your preference list, as soon as you're granted one of the sections, the other section will automatically be excluded from your preference list. So it's automatic, so just make sure that you put the one that you prefer the most highest on your list and maybe give it more points, and then the system will get you in that one if possible. If it can't get you in that one, it can still get you in the other one, but it will not get you in both of them, except for the 693R classes. The R classes are repeatable, so you can take them multiple times. So the R classes, each of the 693R classes are usually different topics and different instructors and so forth. Now, this is where we end the video portion here. And again, for those of you in the video audience, if you have questions beyond this, please contact the MBA office and we'll be able to answer your questions.